The Millionaire Next Door. The Surprising Secrets of America's Wealthy. By Thomas J. Stanley, Ph.D. and William D. Danko, Ph.D. Preface. A reporter recently asked me about the changes I have noticed among the American millionaire population since the current economic meltdown. She wanted to know if the millionaire market is dead given the recent reversals in the market value of stocks and homes. I replied that the millionaire next door is still alive and kicking even today in this recession. Since 1980 I have consistently found that most millionaires do not have all of their wealth tied up in their stock portfolios or in their homes. One of the reasons that millionaires are economically successful is that they think differently. Many a millionaire has told me that true diversity has much to do with controlling one's investments. No one can control the stock market. But you can, for example, control your own business, private investments, and money you lend to private parties. Not at any time during the past 30 years have I found that the typical millionaire had more than 30% of his wealth invested in publicly traded stocks. More often it is in the low to mid 20% range. These percentages are consistent with those found in studies conducted by the Internal Revenue Service, which has the best data set on millionaires in the world. Consider the profile of a millionaire next door type couple, Ms. D and her husband. To most, this couple's lifestyle is boring, even common. This millionaire's brand of watch is a Timex, her husband's is a Seiko, #1 among millionaires. The couple buys their clothes at Dillard's, JCPenney, and TJ Maxx. They have purchased only 2 motor vehicles in the past 10 years, both Fords. The current market value of their home is approximately $275,000. Ms. T's most recent haircut cost $18. Yet they are uncommon in the sense that they are financially independent. When I speak of people like Ms. D and her husband, invariably someone will ask, but are they happy? Fully 90% of millionaires who live in homes valued at under $300,000 are extremely satisfied with life. And, in my most recent work, I state that there are nearly 3 times as many households with investments of $1 million or more living in homes valued at $300,000 or less than there are living in homes valued at $1 million or more. Even most multimillionaires in America don't live in expensive homes. I recently tabulated the 2007 IRS estate data, the latest data available, for those decedents with an estate valued at $3.5 million or more. I estimated that the median market value of a decedent's home was $469,021, or less than 10% of their median net worth. On average, these decedents had more than 2.5 times more of their wealth invested in investment real estate than in their own personal homes. Profiling the millionaire next door population was a cumulative process which continues today. Originally I used a different description to define this segment. I first coined the wealthy blue-collar segment in a paper entitled Market Segmentation, Utilizing Investment Determinants, which I presented on October 10, 1979 at a conference of the Securities Industry Association in New York City. The paper was later published by the American Marketing Association. Earlier in May 1979, the New York Stock Exchange had asked me to develop a set of marketing implications and recommendations based upon its then recently completed national survey of 2,741 households on investment patterns and attitudes and behaviors about money. This provided a base for the above-mentioned paper. A key point I made in this paper was: opportunities exist in segments that the investment industry has ignored for years. Members of the really big segment, the wealthy blue-collar, do not need to purchase expensive artifacts that are part of the white-collar worker's knapsack. At the time of my presentation I realized that the blue-collar/millionaire next door segment did exist, and it was likely to be a sizable one. Not long after I first identified this marker, I discovered how very large it indeed was. In June 1980 I was asked by a large money center bank to conduct a national study of the millionaire population in America. During the planning stage, an event took place which had a major influence upon the direction of my career. I encountered my epiphany about the millionaire next door segment one morning at a task force meeting with my client and a colleague and friend, John Robin. John is a Harvard-trained mathematician who profiled the wealth characteristics of the residents within each of more than 200,000 neighborhoods across America. He said, in passing, about 1/2 of the millionaires in America don't live in upscale neighborhoods. That's when the light went on inside my head. The really compelling story was not the millionaire population in general. Rather it was the low-profile millionaires, the ones who lived in modest homes situated in middle-class, even working-class neighborhoods. From that moment on, I intensely began studying and writing about the millionaire next door types. The research that I conducted 30 years ago in 1980 was the first comprehensive national study about the size, geographic distribution, and financial lifestyles of millionaires. The key findings were highly congruent with the numerous studies that I have conducted since that time. I authored the National Affluence Study 1981-1982 for a consortium of the top 50 financial institutions in America. In addition to designing this study, I traveled the country conducting focus group interviews with millionaires. Later, many of these financial institutions, including 7 of the top 10 trust companies in America, asked me to conduct focus group interviews and surveys of the affluent on their behalf. As a result, I had the opportunity to meet with more than 500 millionaires face-to-face. My interpretation of these interviews as well as many others that I conducted is given throughout the Millionaire Next Door. Interestingly, the millionaires I interviewed in Oklahoma and Texas, for example, had the same set of traditional American values as those whom I interviewed in New York City and Chicago. The large majority was keenly interested in being financially independent. That's why they live below their means. Prior to writing The Millionaire Next Door, I spent nearly an entire year reviewing my survey data and the transcripts of the interviews conducted between 1982 and 1996. This extensive research and analysis, I believe, is what makes The Millionaire Next Door a perennial bestseller. For the price of a book, the reader is essentially buying the equivalent of more than $1 million worth of invaluable research and interpretation. Why do I continue to write about rich people? It is not for the benefit of rich people. What I write is designed to enlighten those who are confused and misinformed about what it means to be rich. Most Americans have no idea about the true inner workings of a wealthy household. The advertising industry and Hollywood have done a wonderful job conditioning us to believe that wealth and hyperconsumption go hand in hand. Yet, as I have said many times, the large majority of the rich live well below their means. Unfortunately, most Americans think that they are emulating the rich by immediately consuming any upward swing in their cash flow. But the Millionaire Next Door types do it differently. As one millionaire woman trained as an engineer told me, after college my husband, also an engineer, and I both got good jobs. We lived on one income and saved the other. Anytime we got raises we just saved more. We have lived in the same modest 1,900 square foot home for 20 years. Sometimes my kids ask if we are poor because I make them order from the $1 value menu. America is still the land of opportunity. Over the past 30 years I have consistently found that 80 to 85% of millionaires are self-made. There is great pride, joy and satisfaction to be derived from building one's own fortune. Countless millionaires have told me that the journey to wealth is much more satisfying than the destination. When they look back over their history of building wealth, they recall constantly setting economic goals and the great happiness gained from achieving them. Yes, in the context of economic achievement, it is the trip, the journey to financial independence about which the millionaires next door most often boast. Thomas J. Stanley, Ph.D. June 2010. Atlanta, Georgia. Visit Dr. Stanley at www.thomasstanley.com. Introduction. 20 years ago we began studying how people become wealthy. Initially, we did it just as you might imagine, by surveying people in so-called upscale neighborhoods across the country. In time, we discovered something odd. Many people who live in expensive homes and drive luxury cars do not actually have much wealth. Then, we discovered something even odder, many people who have a great deal of wealth do not even live in upscale neighborhoods. That small insight changed our lives. It led one of us, Tom Stanley, out of an academic career, inspired him to write 3 books on marketing to the affluent in America, and made him an advisor to corporations that provide products and services to the affluent. In addition, he conducted research about the affluent for 7 of the top 10 financial service corporations in America. Between us, we have conducted hundreds of seminars on the topic of targeting the wealthy. Why are so many people interested in what we have to say? Because we have discovered who the wealthy really are and who they are not. And, most important, we have determined how ordinary people can become wealthy. What is so profound about these discoveries? Just this, most people have it all wrong about wealth in America. Wealth is not the same as income. If you make a good income each year and spend it all, you are not getting wealthier. You are just living high. Wealth is what you accumulate, not what you spend. How do you become wealthy? Here, too, most people have it wrong. It is seldom luck or inheritance or advanced degrees or even intelligence that enables people to amass fortunes. Wealth is more often the result of a lifestyle of hard work, perseverance, planning, and, most of all, self-discipline. How come I am not wealthy? Many people ask this question of themselves all the time. Often they are hardworking, well-educated, high-income people. Why, then, are so few affluent? Millionaires and you. There has never been more personal wealth in America than there is today, over $22 trillion in 1996. Yet most Americans are not wealthy. Nearly one-half of our wealth is owned by 3.5% of our households. Most of the other households don't even come close. By other households, we are not referring to economic dropouts. Most of these millions of households are composed of people who earn moderate, even high, incomes. More than 25 million households in the United States have annual incomes in excess of $50,000, more than 7 million have annual incomes over $100,000. But in spite of being good income earners, too many of these people have small levels of accumulated wealth. Many live from paycheck to paycheck. These are the people who will benefit most from this book. The median, typical, household in America has a net worth of less than $15,000, excluding home equity. Factor out equity in motor vehicles, furniture, and such, and guess what? More often than not the household has zero financial assets, such as stocks and bonds. How long could the average American household survive economically without a monthly check from an employer? Perhaps a month or two in most cases. Even those in the top quintile are not really wealthy. Their median household net worth is less than $150,000. Excluding home equity, the median net worth for this group falls to less than $60,000. And what about our senior citizens? Without Social Security benefits, almost one-half of Americans over 65 would live in poverty. Only a minority of Americans have even the most conventional types of financial assets. Only about 15% of American households have a money market deposit account, 22%, a certificate of deposit, 4.2%, a money market fund, 3.4%, corporate or municipal bonds, fewer than 25%, stocks and mutual funds, 8.4%, rental property, 18.1%, U.S. savings bonds, and 23%, IRA or Keogh accounts. But 65% of the households have equity in their own home, and more than 85% own one or more motor vehicles. Cars tend to depreciate rapidly. Financial assets tend to appreciate. The millionaires we discuss in this book are financially independent. They could maintain their current lifestyle for years and years without earning even 1 month's pay. The large majority of these millionaires are not the descendants of the Rockefellers or Vanderbilts. More than 80% are ordinary people who have accumulated their wealth in one generation. They did it slowly, steadily, without signing a multi-million-dollar contract with the Yankees, without winning the lottery, without becoming the next Mick Jagger. Windfalls make great headlines, but such occurrences are rare. In the course of an adult's lifetime, the probability of becoming wealthy via such paths is lower than 1 in 4,000. Contrast these odds with the proportion of American households, 3.5 per 100, in the $1 million and over net worth category. The 7 factors. Who becomes wealthy? Usually the wealthy individual is a businessman who has lived in the same town for all of his adult life. This person owns a small factory, a chain of stores, or a service company. He has married once and remains married. He lives next door to people with a fraction of his wealth. He is a compulsive saver and investor. And he has made his money on his own. 80% of America's millionaires are first-generation rich. Affluent people typically follow a lifestyle conducive to accumulating money. In the course of our investigations, we discovered 7 common denominators among those who successfully build wealth. 1. They live well below their means. 2. They allocate their time, energy, and money efficiently, in ways conducive to building wealth. 3. They believe that financial independence is more important than displaying high social status. 4. Their parents did not provide economic outpatient care. 5. Their adult children are economically self-sufficient. 6. They are proficient in targeting market opportunities. 7. They chose the right occupation. In The Millionaire Next Door, you will study these 7 characteristics of the wealthy. We hope you will learn how to develop them in yourself. The research. The research for The Millionaire Next Door is the most comprehensive ever conducted on who the wealthy are in America, and how they got that way. Much of this research was developed from the most recent survey we conducted that, in turn, was developed from studies we had conducted over the previous 20 years. These studies included personal and focus group interviews with more than 500 millionaires and surveys of more than 11,000 high net worth and/or high income respondents. More than 1,000 people responded to our latest survey, which was conducted from May 1995 through January 1996. It asked each respondent about his or her attitudes and behaviors regarding a wide variety of wealth-related issues. Each participant in our study answered 249 questions. These questions addressed topics ranging from household budget planning or lack of it to financial fears and worries, and from methods of bargaining when purchasing automobiles to the categories of financial gifts, or acts of kindness, wealthy people give to their adult children. Several sections of the questionnaire asked respondents to indicate the most they ever spent for motor vehicles, wristwatches, suits, shoes, vacations, and the like. This study was the most ambitious and thorough we have ever undertaken. No other study has focused on the key factors that explain how people become wealthy in one generation. Nor has a study revealed why many people, even most of those with high incomes, never accumulate even a modest amount of wealth. In addition to our survey, we gained considerable insight into the Millionaire Next Door from other research. We spent hundreds of hours conducting and analyzing in-depth interviews with self-made millionaires. We also interviewed many of their advisors, such as CPAs and other professional experts. These experts were very helpful in our exploration of the issues underlying the accumulation of wealth. What have we discovered in all of our research? Mainly, that building wealth takes discipline, sacrifice, and hard work. Do you really want to become financially independent? Are you and your family willing to reorient your lifestyle to achieve this goal? Many will likely conclude they are not. If you are willing to make the necessary trade-offs of your time, energy, and consumption habits, however, you can begin building wealth and achieving financial independence. The Millionaire Next Door will start you on this journey. For details on how we targeted respondents for our survey, see Appendix 1.